meanest thugs to dictate policy. Now, that being said, I do want to thank the Iranian embassy. In fact, I really think that I want to send them a case of the finest Israeli wine. The finest Israeli wine. I'm going to give them kosher Manischewitz. It's, you know, it's been a remarkable 2 weeks. I mean, it's hard to believe what's really happened. And obviously everybody here has seen the news and read the newspapers. I actually had a short presentation I just can't show you, but there are a few things in the press really intrigued me. First, in the blogosphere, there was people who wanted to make this into sort of a right-left issue. That somehow fighting for democracy in Iran is a right-wing issue and the other people are left. I mean, it was just really, really crazy. So there's a bunch of bloggers on the left who basically accused me of doing a PR stunt. This was all done on purpose by me to get more publicity for my film society. I actually had to force a blogger to apologize. Then the day after the cancellation happened, there was a Globe and Mail article by, was it Jane Tabor? And her headline was, 2 Tory ministers bristle at cancellation of movie in Ottawa. So the story there was that we've got conservatives bristling. Nothing about free speech, nothing about influence of Iran, but the fact is it's really bad. We've got 2 Tory ministers who bristle. Then there was a story, page 1 of the Ottawa Citizen. I mean, page 1 of the Ottawa Citizen, where it talked about how what happened is really going to set back relations with Iran and Canada, you know. And they quoted a professor from Royal Military College, basically saying, you know, this gives more evidence to the Iranians to complain about Canadian human rights. And so here's a professor who basically, you know, missed the big picture, but basically it's a problem with us. And it's hard to believe when you see this sort of coverage. One of the most heartening things about what's happened is the number of emails I received from Iranians in Canada, from the Iranian community, many people who left communist Iran, left the thugs to come here to celebrate freedom, and were just absolutely dismayed to see that the hand of Iran somehow reached into Canada for a short period. I got many of these emails from people who are absolutely horrified, and some of them are here tonight who are just happy to see this film go on. There's a bunch of famous people in the audience tonight. My friend David Harris, who's an expert on terrorism and research. Next to David is Shabnam Asadollahai, who does a Persian language show on Chin Radio. Shabnam is of human rights, and thank you for all of your support. Member of Parliament Kelly Block is here. Is here, I think, is Senator Dan. And I'd like to introduce the Minister of National Heritage, James Moore, who, when the going got tough, actually stood up for free speech in Canada. Would you please welcome James Moore?
That speech is to know that when you're welcomed with such enthusiasm, it's all downhill from here. No, Fred, first of all, thank you, Fred, very much for your leadership and for the Free Thinking Film Society for doing what you do. You know, I got an email, it was a couple of weeks ago, and I got an email from Fred, and he said, Library and Archives Canada just canceled my movie. It's going on in 48 hours, and they just canceled the movie. Can you help me out? And I said, sure. So I called the head of Library and Archives Canada, and I said, you had a deal with a Canadian citizen to show a movie in your theater. Why are you canceling on that, backing out on that deal? And they said, well, we had some complaints from the Iranian embassy. And I said, well, we had some complaints from the Iranian embassy that they thought the showing of this film was a bad idea and would cause some friction, and we didn't want to be in that position. And I just said, you're showing that movie. If you get a complaint from an embassy, I don't care what embassy it is, the Iranian embassy or any embassy around the world, you pass it on to me and the government of Canada will deal with it. You don't stifle the free speech of Canadians because you get complaints. The soap opera that unfolded happened in the media, and it was what it was. And I'll just reiterate it again, loud and clear, on behalf of Prime Minister Harper, on behalf of our government again. The Iranian embassy will never dictate to a single Canadian what movies are canceled. And certainly near the one-year anniversary of the Green Revolution that happened in the streets of Tehran, where brave, especially women, stood up proudly in defiance of those who were trying to stifle their right to free speech, democracy, openness, tolerance, pluralism, and liberalization. Mr. Ahmadinejad, President Ahmadinejad, you have no right to extend the theocratic, bullying arm of your government onto Canadian soil in a building, by the way, an agency of the Government of Canada, a stone's throw from the Parliament of Canada. You will not tell the Government of Canada, you will not tell a single Canadian what movie we can or cannot watch. That said, you are all here to watch what I understand is a fine film. I haven't seen the film, by the way, and I say it all the time to the media. So I haven't seen this movie. I know the subject matter. I know the views and the values that are underlined in the film, but I haven't seen the film. So this isn't about, as was just said, this is not a right-left issue. David Kilgour, former Liberal cabinet minister, James Moore, a Conservative cabinet minister, were sitting side by side here in the front row to watch a film on a very important issue. I haven't seen this film. This is not about the content of the film. This is not about the structure of the film. This is not about the views of the film. This is about free speech. This is about the right of Canadians to enjoy whatever film it is that we choose to watch on Canadian soil within the national capital. These are our rights. And so I just want to say, and again, just finally, in closing, I appreciate you all coming out. A sold-out crowd on a chilly evening in the first week of February on Super Bowl Sunday, packing a theater. From the tensions and what's going on in Tunisia through across east to what we see happening in Egypt and in the entire region, this is obviously an area of the world that is of great concern to all Canadians. And I think that all of us sitting here educating ourselves, getting to know a perspective about a regime about which a great deal of Canadians and people around the world have a great deal of concern is something that's very important. And so I'm here in solidarity with you to watch this film on the principles of free speech, openness, democracy, and the kind of Iran that we wish to be open and free and trading with the world, prosperous, forward-looking, engaged in the world. This is the kind of Iran that we want. It's not what we see with President Ahmadinejad, and I think that we all stand here in solidarity with those who have stood in the streets in the past for tolerance, openness, free speech, and democracy in Iran. Thank you.
We're very fortunate to have David Kilgour here. I've asked David to come and say a few words. David is a former minister for Latin America, Africa, Asia Pacific. David, and if you don't know, David Matus of B'nai B'rith were nominated for a 2010 Nobel Peace Prize for their work. Yes. They did amazing work related to the investigation of organ pillaging against the Falun Gong in China. David's also the co-chair of Canadian Friends of Democratic Iran, and he's a Canadian hero of democracy around the world. Thank you. David.
it's, by the way, it's 14-0 for Green Bay. That was on James's Blackberry, wasn't it? Is it changed the story? Je dois dire, Monsieur le Ministre, Madame Claire Lopez, Madame le député Kelly Bloch, chers mesdames et messieurs, je vous demande pardon, mais mes remarques brèves, je dois dire, se font en anglais. Désolé. Congratulations to Fred and the Free Thinking Film Society for bringing Iranium back, so to speak, to this hall. Congratulations to Heritage Minister James Moore for helping us with the rebooking. I haven't seen Iranium either, and each of you will decide, of course, what you think of it tonight. And some of you probably read the comments by John Quimby, Canada's former ambassador in Iran until 2007. It struck me, not having seen the film, as being a responsible comment. Iran, as you all know, friends, is a vitally important country. Its culture is thousands of years old. It has a long-suffering population of 70 million people, with almost 2/3 of them under the age of 30. Iranians increasingly should be distinguished from the regime in Tehran. Virtually all Canadians oppose, I think, an invasion of Iran by anyone, but many of us seek effective sanctions that will effectively discourage Ahmadinejad from developing nuclear bombs. Iran has vast amounts of natural gas. I think it's a 300-year supply of natural gas and huge amounts of oil. Nobody can seriously doubt the only reason he wants nuclear power is to build nuclear weapons, right? Right. Iran now has the highest number of executions per capita in the world. More than 2,000 death sentences were handed down last year alone, with approximately 160 children now on death row. More than 3,000 Afghan refugees are awaiting execution. More than 32 Iranians are waiting to be stoned to death. The highest number of journalists in detention anywhere exists in Iran. Human rights activists and defense attorneys face daily intimidation. The regime is presently intensifying its persecution of its people for their religious faith. The Iranian parliament adopted, as I'm sure many of you know, a mandatory death penalty for apostasy. Among its primary targets are the gentle Baha'i community. Most of those prosecuted for apostasy, of course, are Muslims. The inclusion of the Iranian opposition group, the PMOI, or the MEK, on the terrorism list in Western countries was one result of a misguided appeasement policy in many capitals and a misinformation campaign by Iranian lobbyists. The listing also provided an excuse for Tehran to increase suppression on the Iranian opposition in Camp Ashraf, for one place, by the way. And we have Warren Kreitz here tonight with us, and I hope anybody wants to talk to him about Camp Ashraf, where he's been. Hold up your hand, will you, Warren? Okay, thank you. 3,400 Iranian refugees, friends, are living in this camp in Iraq, and it's become a hell on earth for them. But I'm not to go into that subject. Time is short. Now that all EU countries have removed the PMOI from their terrorist lists, no more time should pass before its removal from the Canadian and the US terrorist lists. In short, Canada should encourage the establishment of the rule of law and representative democracy in Iran. Hopefully all of you will tell your own MPs and your friends and your colleagues what you think about this important global issue and human dignity issue, especially after we see the film. Thank you very much.